Well, good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Michael Wilhite here with Southern Indiana weather. Wanted to do a video forecast up-to-date more on the long range. Haven't been able to do one of these for a few days just because of, well, I've just been busy and not been able to do it for you. But I wanted to give you an idea of where we're headed at because, as you can see from the screen here, we've got some big-time pattern changes going on. And of course, in the last video update that I had, we were talking about a big-time cool down, and I said could get even cooler beyond that. Now you're really starting to see it come into play as we go through this. So right now we're looking at temperatures in the 60s today. The GFS ensembles that I had here actually said 64 for a high temperature. But it didn't quite get up to 64. We only made it up to 61. It's just been a rather gloomy and cool day, and we may have a few of those in store for us in the future. But not a whole lot of rain out there right now, just more dreary than it is anything. And you can see the highest that we get, according to this particular model, is 65 over the next few days, and that's actually on Friday. So get out and enjoy Friday. It'll be a beautiful sunny day with temperatures in the mid-60s, and that's about as good as it's going to get, because as you look at the rest of the time period, take a look at this. Temperatures basically in the 50s for much of the rest of the time period to near 60 degrees, and you even have one time where you get into the 40s according to this. So definitely some big changes on the way for us here in southern Indiana. So let's take a look at what's causing this. We'll take a look at our surface map. Excuse me. Get an idea. Now, let me go back out to here. Here's where we're at. Here was a surface map for 2 p.m. if I can get it to stick around, and so it's an idea for you of where we're at right now. You have the low pressure that's centered up in here, and you have a cold front draped along this way. And of course, this is round one. This is the cold front that moved through yesterday and continues to slowly push off to the east. That is wrapping around cold air from Canada. Remember, I've said this before, but it's sort of like Canada sprung a leak. That's exactly what you're seeing here, and that's as we put this in motion as we go through time, that's exactly what we're going to see happen. The cold front continues to push off to the east, but then I want you to notice what happens here. Here we have Thursday, and you notice a slight chance of a few showers on Thursday. I don't think this is going to be anything huge. This, by the way, is actually what was left of a tropical storm that was in the Pacific Ocean, moved into Mexico, and then has been followed along by the jet stream and has sort of moved up from down here and is moving up along like this. And so we might get a little bit of moisture with that. I don't expect this is going to be a big event by any means, but one more day of a little bit of precipitation, and then we'll be mostly rain-free throughout the period from there. But as you go on Friday, you have a pretty nice day setting up on Friday, but you see another system out to our west. This is another cold front that's going to be headed our way, and as you move this in time a little bit, we've got a chance maybe on Saturday morning early on that we might wake up to a few sprinkles on Saturday, but this looks mostly like a dry cold front. And you actually, if you just kind of pan this out, you kind of have the cold front right in here, and so secondary cold front will be moving through on Saturday, which is going to bring, of course, another reinforcing shot of cold air to us as we go throughout the time period. Then as you put this in motion, I want you to notice this high pressure that comes in here. Remember, winds around a high pressure system rotate clockwise, and winds around a low pressure rotate counterclockwise. So what you're going to have here is essentially winds coming out of the north to the northwest for much of time period, and that is going to bring, again, more of a reinforcing shot of that cold weather as you go down through it. This moves off, then you get into another time frame, and you notice another developing storm system. What is this? Another developing decent low pressure system with, you guessed it, my friend, cold front number 3 in this time frame moving through, which is going to do what? Well, take a wild guess. Another reinforcing cold shot as we go throughout this. And my apologies, my mouse is acting up here. I don't know how I just did that. Sorry about that. Yeah, I'm a little confused there, but we'll move on. You gotta love technology. I think I clicked the wheel on my mouse when I was using this, and it zoomed in. So I guess you learn something as you go. I'm normally tech friendly, but Oh well, that's all right. You learn something as you go. Where was I here? So the cold front, yeah, here we go. Let me back this up to about hour 132. I'm sort of doing this informally today. Usually I run off of sort of a script of things that I want to show you, so my apologies if this seems kind of scatterbrained. I just kind of threw this together real quick and decided, oh yeah, I promised I would do a video. I really need to get that done. So, but here you have the cold front. This would actually be Monday night. This is Tuesday 0Z, so that's 8 p.m. Monday night. The cold front's knocking on our doorstep. As you put it into motion a little bit, the cold front passes around, and then we have, of course, that high pressure rotating in. Guess what? Continues to keep us more in a northerly direction. And then guess what? What do you see coming out here to the west? Yeah, you guessed it. Yet another storm system. You have a low pressure here, and you'll have another trailing cold front with that, and that is going to bring the chance. This, by the way, if you're counting, is cold front number 4 in the time frame, and that's going to bring another reinforcing cold shot as we go throughout this time frame. And actually, that one has the chance of doing something decent. If we take a look over here, this is our same map that we were looking at, essentially. Only difference is what I've added on to this is the thickness lines. And so the first blue line that you see right about here is the 540 thickness line. And what that 540 thickness line is the rain-snow changeover line. So in theory, at least, everything north of that line would be snow. Everything south of that line would be rain. And so it kind of gives us a little bit of a guide. That doesn't always play out right, because sometimes right here in this transition zone near that line you can end up with some sleet or freezing rain. But this gives us, we've got some other thickness lines that we can use for that. We won't go into them, but this gives us a little bit of an idea of where this is going to be. So take a look at the setup of what you got. You've got a fairly decent low pressure system here. It actually was up into here, and then you notice it kind of starts to curve, and it'll eventually curve and go more like this, but it's losing a little bit of strength, but that really doesn't seem to matter, because I want you to notice the decent amount of precipitation up here in northern Indiana, and that's probably maybe a quarter of an inch to a tenth of an inch. And notice that's north of the 540 thickness line, so that's good. You know, if you translate that liquid precip into snow, snow is at a 10-to-1 ratio, so that's a good 1 to 2 inches of snow for northern Indiana that the GFS model is saying here on October the 23rd that could be produced for them. So that's certainly something we want to watch out for. Why? Because if this tracks just a little bit further to the south for us, we could end up getting this. And so if you're a snow lover, that'd be a good thing. If you're a snow hater, then you just are going to hate this, because it's going to be cool that day no matter what. We would at least be on the warm side of the low, so anything that would be here would be rain, but you see it's pretty moisture starved, at least from what we get up around here. If you put it into motion though, the low, well, let's just kind of track it back. You notice the low started over here, and let me get back into here. Okay, come on, respond computer, there we go. You've got the low pressure starting here over in Iowa, and then it kind of tracks this way as you go through. So it's taking kind of a southern turn a little bit before it starts to curve more north and go out away from us. But I want you to notice the blue line starts to move over us by the time we get into the time frame. And by the time we get to the end of what the model sees here, what you've got is the low pressure system out here. You've got the cold front maybe along with us, but that 540 thickness line is now running along like this, and you do see a few little bits of gray here. These would be some leftover snow flurries or snow showers. So as it stands right now, I would not expect to see any snow for most of southern Indiana with this. Certainly nothing significant. Wouldn't rule out a flurry or two on the back side of the system the way this looks though. So and remember, if this low decides, well, you know what, maybe I won't move from here and then move into here and move over here. Maybe what the low starts to do is take more of a southerly track and moves more like this before it starts to recurve and go out. If it did that, that would put us in that snow zone, and we could end up seeing that 1 to 2 inches of rain. So that's something that we've got to take a look at no matter how we go. Let's take a look at temperatures throughout this time period for what the GFS sees. And of course, this is the GFS ensembles, which usually keep things a little bit cooler than the regular GFS. So let's just take a look at the GFS and see what we come up with. And what you can see is a fairly significant cool down in store for us. So, and this is just a snapshot. This isn't high or low temperature. So here we'll just start out for the next couple of days. Here we wake up on Friday morning. You're starting out with an overnight low morning low here around 44 as you move into Saturday. Saturday night, Saturday morning here, we're again mid-40s for the low, and the euro actually wants to take us a little bit warmer than this. But then as you start to move through this time period, that's when things get a little bit cooler. We start to warm up to the mid-60s according to this on Monday, which would be a nice welcome change. But then notice that things start to plummet out. Notice the invasion of cold air on Tuesday coming down, and then just watch how this starts to move our direction, so that by the time you get to Wednesday morning of next week, a week from now essentially, you end up with a low in the upper 30s here, and you certainly have frost in central and northern Indiana without a single question there. And then as you move on time through the time period, we're talking about a low of around 37 by the time you wake up on the 24th. Now this is what the 12Z run. If we actually go back to the 6Z run of this, and let me just look at that 2-meter snapshot here for you, because it was actually quite a bit cooler than what this is. The 12Z run has warmed it up a little bit, but let me just run through this time frame a little bit and give you an idea, because we don't want to look at just one run. We want to look at more runs than one with this. And by the time you run into this time frame, and I'm pretty sure it was this time frame, but I could be wrong. I'm not finding it. Well, there was one of them that got us down close into the 30s. Hold on a second, folks. Let me pause this video and I'll pull it up to save time. Okay, folks, my apologies for that. Here we go. I pulled up the right thing. Take a look. This is from the 6Z GFS. I wanted to at least show you that at least one model run. Now, this is a little older. This is from the model run that was at 2 a.m. overnight. The one I was showing you before was from 8 a.m. this morning. But take a look at this, and you see just the difference in temperatures on Friday the 25th. You know, from this you can actually see freezing, and this, of course, would be not just frost temperatures for us, but freezing temperatures. So that's something that we're going to have to watch as the time frame goes on. So certainly we are looking at some ridiculously cooler temperatures as the time goes on here. So let me real quick just kind of pull up the indices for you again, and we'll see that we're taking a look at pretty much exactly what we would expect. Remember, the indices indicate where the jet stream's going to dive some of that cooler weather. If we're looking at the Arctic Oscillation, when it goes negative, cold air is on the move from Canada, we'll look for this extended time period, and you see we're going decently negative. So that's consistent with cold air on the move to the south. If we look at the P&A, again, the P&A also goes positive. A positive P&A pushes a trough over the eastern United States, brings cool weather down. So we've got that going for us as well. And then, of course, we take a look at the North Atlantic Oscillation for a blocking pattern. A negative indicates a blocking pattern, which would keep this in here for a while, and it's kind of negative, not very strongly. So, and it could be potentially short-lived. So that's it's just one of those things. One other thing I want to mention to you that I think is of interest that I need to show you at least. Typhoon Wifa, of course, we've talked about the typhoon rule in the past, and with the typhoon rule, basically what it says is when you have a typhoon that forms out in the Pacific Ocean and it starts to recurve up around Japan, it'll eventually die out, it'll hit the jet stream, and with that typhoon rule, once it recurves in the jet stream, it moves back to the United States. In 6 to 10 days, you can expect a big trough of low pressure in the dip in the jet stream, if you will, to be over our particular neck of the woods. Stormy weather and much cooler weather typically comes along with that. Well, what is exactly 6 to 10 days from now? Of course, it's Wednesday, so 6 to 10 days is the 22nd. Add on more into that, you got the 22nd through the 26th, roughly with that time frame. And guess what the 22nd through the 26th is? That is exactly the time frame that we are looking at here for the big time cool down. That is exactly the time frame we're looking in here that we could say, yes, we could end up with a freeze, and that's exactly the same time frame we're looking at that. You know, if this particular system moves just a little farther to the south of us, we could end up with some snow out of the system. So that is certainly something we are going to have to watch. What these systems do with that typhoon rule are hard to predict, but it's something that we'll continue to watch as time goes by. So if you take a look at southernindianaweather.com, you can see the 7-day forecast. You can get the latest on that, and just the short and sweet of it. It is cool. So hope you've enjoyed this video update, and I'll have more on this in coming days as information comes available. I'm meteorologist Michael Wilhite for Southern Indiana.